That's awesome. I really, really appreciate you guys coming out today and joining us for an exploration of how we might build, deploy, and scale an IoT application. My name is Matt Krieger. I'm an evangelist at Heroku. How many of you guys have used Heroku? Oh man, it's a family in here. Okay, cool. So for those of you who haven't used Heroku in the past, Heroku is a platform for building consumer-facing applications. Really, you can build anything on Heroku, but consumer-facing applications are a particularly good fit. I guess now's the time to show you this safe harbor slide. Don't use anything we say to make decisions. That's as far as I'm going to go with that. So we split the session up into 3 parts. And we're not going to start with all of the answers, which might be what you're expecting. We're going to start with a question that I've been asking myself a lot lately, and a question we'll get to in a few minutes. And then we're very, very lucky today to have Kyle Roche, the CEO of Telemetry. Telemetry, is, in case you're not familiar with it, is a platform for connected devices. So he's going to come and give us all of the answers to the questions, which I will ramble on about a little bit, and then he's going to show you how you can get started with connected applications in Heroku and using telemetry. Okay, so let's just dive right into it. The Internet of Things. The first time I heard this expression, I guess it landed on my radar, was probably a couple of years ago. I'm a Node developer by day, and there's all kinds of hacks in the Node community. The Node community has like a big culture of Node bots, et cetera, et cetera. But at Dreamforce last year, which was my first Dreamforce, my first session, I didn't get burned at the stake, and I'm back this year, so I guess it went okay. I kept hearing this again in the keynotes, and I was like, does it really matter to me? Not yet. But I live on the east coast of Canada, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Anyone familiar with Halifax, Nova Scotia? Oh man, we are doing a bad job of marketing our province. Newfoundland, how many people have heard of Newfoundland? See, what is up with Newfoundland? Newfoundland's so hip. I'm moving to Newfoundland. It's even colder. Newfoundland's even colder than Halifax, but Halifax is really cold. And this device landed on the market called Nest, and it wasn't just beautiful, but it actually meant that I could save some money. My wife's an accountant, and saving money was very important to her, therefore very important to me. So we picked up one of these, and I was like, oh, I can get on board with this. So then, of course, as a developer, you start to put yourself in like the center of that picture. You know, what does it mean to me as a consumer? And what does it mean to me as a developer trying to build things that people want to consume? And it kind of helps if you, when you start thinking about this, if you frame it up using examples from the past, because IoT is a disruptive technology, let's not kid ourselves. But there's been disruptive technologies before, and they seem to follow a very particular pattern. You look at movies. You want to go to a movie a few years ago, you'd have to use specialized equipment, sit in a special dark room, and let's face it, it wasn't exactly HD. Then, of course, we got to bring those movies home. You'd record Batman on Christmas Eve. This was my life. And then a couple days later, when you went to watch it for the 600th time, you were very lucky if your VCR did not chew it up and spit it back out again. DVDs came along. Much better. It can scale now. We can distribute this. It's easier to produce. It's cheaper. It's more robust. It lasts a little bit longer. But finally, we have a platform. Netflix is a platform because it allows the people who create content to actually deliver it directly to you. And it doesn't matter what kind of device. You don't need any devices with you. You can use anything you have around you to stream Netflix to. So it's really a platform. And this concept is called ephemeralization. And it's something that we use. It's like a guiding principle at Heroku. We use it to think about things in a new way rather than just iterating on the same thing. We try to introduce new models. And new models tend to be disruptive. We're going to throw everything else away. How many of you guys still have VHS tapes kicking around? Wow, there's like actually quite a few of you. Wow, okay. I got to throw my deck away too now. So that's the concept of ephemeralization. And that's kind of how I like to think about these things. And of course, using this model, I'm putting myself in the picture, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, like, IoT is actually kind of cool because it allows us to control our environment. And I like of controlling my environment. So I wanted to kind of hack around this idea. And we're getting to kind of the problem here. I'm just going to show you a quick demo. So are all of you developers? Put up your hand if you're a developer. So, yeah, most of you. Okay, so you've got a product manager. Your product manager's breathing down your neck. They want you to deliver a feature. It's Friday. You've got all these commits in, and you open a pull request. And let's face it, the product manager they're not impressed by your pull request. They're only really impressed by the features that you add to the device. But me, I like my pull request. I like that feeling of merging it in. So I built a little ritual for myself on Friday when I merged that pull request. It goes a little something like this. I've got an application. This is something I'm legitimately working on. You can see it's just a regular old GitHub repository. I also have an application in Heroku. Again, Heroku is a platform for building applications. So this isn't an intro to Heroku, but if it was, I would tell you that add-ons are cloud services that you can easily integrate to Heroku. And I've used one called CodeShip, which gives you like one-click integration to GitHub. So now I push to GitHub, CodeShip runs all my tests and push that out to Heroku for me. So that's kind of the workflow. And we're starting in our command line. Before I get too much into how this works, I'm just going to run it. So do we have, okay, so I've got a change here. I'm going to commit it. We'll call it update the version. And we'll git push. Now, let's flip back over to here for a sec. So you can see that my suspenseful music starts to play because I'm like, is this going to merge successfully or are all my tests going to fail and I'm going to land on my face? Uh-oh, check access to Heroku Bapchosa. Don't worry, this isn't a real example, so it's going to act like it succeeded. And then my lights flash, and I bring these now everywhere with me. Like literally, I go to hotels, and I replace the bulbs. And I'm really worried about that because I'm having to hang that thing on the door that's like, do not disturb, because I'm worried they're going to come in, and I'm going to have like red lights or green lights on, and they're going to wonder what the hell I'm doing with the room. So let me just toggle those off now. I think you guys can see my screen. So let me show you how this actually works. I have this node service, and you can see that it did get that, that message, and it failed, but I just said whether it fails or not, I don't care. I still wanted to play the music and show the cool lights. These are probably pretty bright, aren't they? I'll turn those off just a sec. There we go, toggled those off. I just want to toggle them on again because I just love doing that. There we go, okay. So this is the actual source that ran that. And you can see to do this, I'm not going to dive into this because really who cares. But what this is showing you is that I have like an application running on Heroku that I'm using webhooks from CodeShip. And the hooks basically say when there's new code, then notify everybody that's connected via WebSockets. This application is running on my local machine. And it knows when my code is pushed. And then it like triggers these lights, which are on a local Wi-Fi network. Now, let me flip back to my slides, even though I think the lights are way more fun. No, I don't know why I'm doing that. Oh, well, okay, yeah. So like, I'm not sure where we land right now in terms of, like, I think maybe we're in the era of the VHS or the DVD. That's kind of where I'm asking myself, like, what's the next logical step for us? And again, I only really have questions. I only have questions, which is why I volunteered to do this session, because I thought maybe I could find somebody that has answers. He happens to be sitting right there, and we'll get to that shortly. But I just want to show you, want to go through one quick thing. The reason I'm so interested in this is because this is exactly what Heroku has done with applications. This is the instructions that you would follow if you were to install Ghost a few years ago. You'd order a server, you'd wait a few weeks, you'd assemble, install, connect power, install a bunch of applications, configure it. There's a whole bunch more I just couldn't get through. You can kind of picture this as like the VHS age of delivering software. This was like the golden age of the VPS. This was a fun one, actually. But you'd sign up for a VPS, you'd provision a new instance, you'd add a user, you'd go through all those steps of installing everything. Eventually, you're going to configure Nginx, because you need a router. That's always very important. Then you get to install and configure Ghost. And I'd like to point out that really the only thing that matters in all of these steps, the only thing they have in common is installing and configuring Ghost, because that's the application. Amazon Web Service, it made it a lot easier. AWS, super, super cool tech. But again, we're still going through this process of getting our servers set up, when really all we want to do is push a button. And that's where Heroku is today. Heroku's just introduced the button gallery. I suggest you check it out. It's super cool. You can find that at buttons.heroku.com. And there's a whole library of them there. You can add them to your own projects. There's a configuration file. It's really, really simple. People can then go to your repository, click a button. It will clone that repository and deploy it to their own instance of Heroku, their own Heroku applications. Super good way to like share applications, tutorials, et cetera, and Ghost, of course, has one. And we do this by letting people build the tools that are at the appropriate level of abstraction. These languages, they're modern languages. They allow you to build very quickly. So they're an appropriate choice. You have to tackle the hardest problem first. And the hardest problem with building applications is scale. because it starts off small and then it compounds. You launch it, you need a server and somewhere to put it, then you need a server, somebody to put it, and somebody to operate it. And then you've got a whole bunch of problems. You've got localization issues, you've got monitoring tools, redundancy, you're processing credit cards, God knows what else you have to do. And we've just taken that and distilled it down to drag, click, and slide. So that's how Heroku's solved these problems. And that, you know it's a platform because it's enabled all of these companies to build incredible products. So I'm really excited about where IT could be going. I'm really excited about what that future might look like. And my challenge to Kyle is to get up here and show us what that future looks like now. So warm welcome for Kyle, please. Kyle Roche. Whoops.
So yeah, I almost did it again.
Almost. I'll let you fall. You want to just fold in, put it somewhere. Who cares?
Am I on now? Awesome.
But I'm still on.
I was telling Matt earlier, I did a presentation last year. Or that was 2 years ago, I guess, but I tripped on the stairs on the way up, which was really awesome. Make sure we're up here. So yeah, my name is Kyle Roach. I'm one of the founders at a company called Telemetry. We have the really loud, obnoxious basketball court over there. I don't know if anyone's seen that yet. The idea of the court really is to go after just demonstrating a lot of what's happening in IoT now. We see IoT split into two different sort of sectors, right? Kind of new, fun, consumer-facing products where you get kind of a one-to-one relationship with your device or your kind of phone or something like that, and that's what's in the basketball court right now, right? That's an example of kind of what you have with the lights. You go home, you talk to the lights. The problem that you solve as a developer with interacting with problems like this, or products like this, doesn't really have anything to do with the scale or the distribution of electronics or something like that across more of a mass market. So what Telemetry does, we kind of fit uniquely in the IoT space. A lot of folks that normal people would think are competitors of ours are actually close partners. So guys like ThingWorks that are in the IoT zone with us, we work closely with them on some different products, some different customer opportunities. So we fit kind of in a unique space where we go after really the enterprise problem of IoT that's been in the field already. So most of these companies that everyone's working for or with in your jobs at home, you guys already have machines. There's trucks, there's water meters, there's something that's already been connected to a legacy system. What Telemetry does is we go after those low-level machine protocols in a way where we don't have to talk or touch the actual device. So our API that's behind Heroku, behind Force.com, is self-configurable. You can define basically what port you're talking on, upload your own homegrown protocols, and we can start to onboard your legacy infrastructure. And what we do is we proxy that back to platforms like Force.com and Heroku over a JSON-based WebSocket. So if you look at our add-on in Heroku, which is what we're talking about today, or our App Exchange package, as a developer, you can interact with a low-level machine-type protocol over a JSON-based WebSocket or natively in Apex code. So it bridges the gap really between devices that are already in the field and environments that we want to work in as application developers. So today what we're going to do, I got a couple minutes left obviously, we're going to walk through basically creating a Heroku app from the ground up. We'll talk about some of the tooling we provide to facilitate development on Heroku, and we'll look at some of the tools that are in place to kind of drive both simulations and analytics down the road. So everything we're showing here today is part of our kind of free developer environment. We've been focused for the last couple years. We've been around for about 5 years, so like most people have been in the IoT space since it was called M2M and things like that. But we focus on larger kind of enterprise type installations. We just started providing a framework, using that scale to facilitate development. So a lot of these tools came out in like June, July. So we've never really been kind of the cool IoT kids blinking the lights and stuff like that. But we're trying to put some of the stuff we've learned at scale back in the hands of the development community. So this is our add-on. It's still in beta. There's sort of an arbitrary time period between beta and production with Heroku, so they kind of want to wait for enough feedback. I think there's a couple hundred people on this already. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to basically start with a clean app, and we're going to connect this all the way through. So what I'm doing is I'm cloning basically a GitHub repository. And now this is something that's out in the public space here. We have a branch for basically every platform that Heroku runs on. You can see this from the documentation in the marketplace. But yeah, if you're a Scala developer, Java, Python, you can start any way you want. For today, I'm going to use Node.js. I cloned the app, so now I have a Node.js app. I'm going to go ahead and create the Heroku app here. You guys see the font okay? Is that all right? It's kind of as big as I can make it. Cool. So yeah, I got my app. I'm going to add our add-on, he gave me a long name this time, of course. Okay, cool. There's just a couple kind of quick configuration steps. These are documented in the Heroku documentation, but I'm basically adding a configuration utility, and I'm going to pull my configuration from Heroku back down to my local environment. This way I don't have to deploy over this Wi-Fi. All right, so now I have a local app. Like any other Heroku app, I can kind of start it up here, and we'll leave it running in the background. So what's happened now on the other end is just by adding the add-on, we provisioned an account on our side. It's free. It has actually no affiliation with your email or anything like that, so it just uses your Heroku app ID. So it's pretty anonymous. We use Heroku to SSO back to the platform, and I'll kind of show you some of the tooling that's available there. So I come in here, I have my new app. I can see the ThinkFabric add-on's been deployed into my Heroku environment, and I can go ahead and kind of open this up. So again, I'm going to use the Heroku login. It's going to talk to us only using your anonymous Heroku app ID. So we don't really know or keep anything about you at this point. And again, the goal here is really to drive tooling for IoT type conversations. Now we see this a lot. A lot of companies, larger companies, companies like Ferrari, Whirlpool, GE, Philips, they use platforms like, they actually use our platform, but Honeywell, TI for R&D type cycles, right? And what you want to do typically in an IoT conversation is talk about what type of sensor data the new device might be sending, and then how can my application react to it in the background. So that's such a common conversation over the last couple of years. You see everybody in our space is used to carrying around these huge boxes of like prototype devices, dev boards, Wi-Fi kits, whatever. And that really slows down kind of mostly the sales cycle, but also your R&D cycles, right? Most importantly for a developer. So we came up with this concept of software-based simulators. So this is all configurable over our API, but also comes with the installation to the Heroku app. So as soon as you add that on, we created a default simulator for you. We provide templates, and these are all, there's tons of these kind of available online, but a couple quick ones like vehicle data, personal tracking, assisted living, and then you can configure your own. So I can do both point and click configuration. I can run these through my force.com app exchange package, or I can upload a GPX file, a JSON file. We'll ingest that and put it on a timer, and we'll run it on a background dyno on Heroku. Basically, it looks and feels to the platform like a connected device, and it gives you an opportunity to really skip the hardware cycle, and as an application developer, start working with a JSON-based feed right away. So the simulators connect, like I said, from Heroku, from the add-on, through our platform, and we end up making raw TCP connections. So if you look at kind of the environment you have as a developer with Force.com and Heroku, you're really in the web services, the older days of SOAP or whatever, but now we're moving into WebSockets, but we haven't really got to the point where either of these platforms want to route low-level TCP connections. So things like wearables and older fleet computers and water meters, they want to talk over a direct socket, especially things on a cellular or satellite network where their bandwidth is really, really kind of expensive. So the simulator actually makes a raw TCP connection so that your application can kind of feel what that looks like to jump back and forth between protocols, and that's all bridged within the add-on. So I'm going to go ahead and just start this one up. This is the default simulator. And now if I look at what's been run, I should have maybe opened that one earlier, but so this guy has been running in the background for quite a little while. Let me get him going and start. Cool. Yeah, so I can see this is the default kind of Node.js starter template that we created. So from here, this open source package, what we have is a map sitting on a Heroku open WebSocket. Our simulator is translating device, pumping it through to Heroku. The starter app lets you kind of see what it would look like code-wise to get a map moving in real time, and also get a table to keep populating. We added a couple kind of little helper starter things like change the color on different types of events. So as a developer, you can throw a prototype together pretty quickly. And this will, kind of obviously from here, you're on your own. You guys are used to this. This is where the developer picks up. He's already got a jump start. He sees how to get data in and out of the platform and can start the development cycles from there. Like I said, this is available in Scala, Java, PHP, even if anyone's still doing that, and Node too. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of close this, and we'll keep moving a little bit. So I'll stop this simulator. Now, some of the more advanced things, right? Like that's great, kind of a looping series of data, but you might want to, for example, like Ferrari or car manufacturers, they have much more complex test scenarios that they need to run. So we support completely custom like JSON payloads, we can ingest it and over time publish that, or we can publish it on top of a GPX or a GPS route. So you can go to Google Maps or download like a marathon route, export it into a file, and we'll play your randomized sensor data on top of the GPS path. And that gives you really more of a geospatial type prototype to work with. Then you can start looking at things like our geofence API. So am I in or out of a radial or polygon type geofence? And it gives you just a ton more kind of things that you can get a prototype together with really quickly. So if anyone's been over to the basketball court, like I said earlier, the basketball solution's interesting, right? Because it's a one-to-one relationship with the iPads we have. Now on this end, when you log in, we have something called DunkForce. You can blame our marketing guys for that. But we took the basketball data, we exported it over a small period of time, and then we opened 1 million simulators at once to dump data through to the Heroku platform. So we're taking that initial hit, we're filtering the noise, and we're moving through the analytics that's important. And then you can kind of see, here's some of the widgets that come out of the box. I can look at, parse GeoJSON, kind of a separation of all the data, and we'll split it out into a time series. So now as a developer, I have a ton of these tools available for me. And if anybody wants to set up a free account, all this data has been preloaded in every new account during Dreamforce. So you'll get these kind of, this collection of 1 million different basketballs sending this data. We randomize both the states, the locations, and the kind of the accelerometer stuff. So you can kind of come in here maybe and do things like open this time window. We'll reevaluate all the spatial data here and the maps on this side, and continue to kind of keep things in sync. So that's kind of what it looks like at scale. But let me show you if as a developer I want to kind of use my own data, right? Hopefully not everyone in here is connecting basketballs. So back in this default project, I go to my simulator. I can create a new one real quick, and this is what it might look like if you're in an R&D conversation. If you're an internal developer, you might want to talk about your next product, or if you're a consultant or working for an SI, you might want to talk about what a device might be like in customer context, right? So as I'm talking to the customer, I can set up maybe a new device simulator, and device 1 creatively named. And I can go over here basically. Like I said, I'm going to upload a pre-made JSON file. So this is something I already had. It's a route from Kansas City to Denver with a bunch of engine analytics on top of it. Sorry, screen size a little smaller. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and start this guy up. So he's going to run every 10 seconds. Now back in my analytics tab, we also support exporting templated dashboards. So we have a bunch of gists available. I'm just going to use one that we already created. But if you're into kind of component development, you can also start to export these templates, get your other teams kind of ready to move on something faster. Let me see here. So you can just go here, put in the gist ID. We'll go out to GitHub and grab that. And then you can load kind of a pre-configured dashboard. So I'm going to get this guy to refresh every couple seconds. And then we can talk about what's happening here. So right now there's a truck that's moving from Kansas City to Denver. It's on a path that we exported right out of Google Maps. And then we basically defined a sensor payload for an engine in JSON. So there's been no code or open sockets. Uploaded that to the simulator. And then what we do is we take the JSON and we run it on top of the GPS path so that you get real kind of live interaction. And this streams with the add-on in your Heroku app. This streams as JSON over a WebSocket. So as a developer, it's something that everyone's kind of used to using. It'll start to kind of build all these in real time, and you can click through the data and kind of play with it. But some of the other tools here, so if you're looking at what exactly is coming over my WebSocket as a developer and how do I inspect that. So under tools, we have this kind of live console. We can subscribe to our feed and start to look at things that are coming through. This, again, is on a 10-second sort of loop, so it might take a second. But yeah, this is more kind of an inspector of the live device data. So something else you can use as a developer to really cut down the cycles that you're doing to talk back and forth to devices. Now this works both ways. We subscribe on that WebSocket. We can also publish back. So for these lights, the lights might tell you what color they are, but you got to be able to send it an on and off command. So you can use the same utility to test that and then move it over to your JavaScript within your application. Let me see. So I'll stop this guy. So yeah, so back on the Heroku side, yeah, like I said, the default, where are we? Cool. So the default add-on is called Think Fabric. It's in the marketplace. Yeah, whatever language you're starting, it's 5 or 6 lines of code. We'll spin up the entire app for you, provision the credentials. And again, you've never signed up or kind of given us any information. So it's a lot of tooling to jumpstart your application development. Yeah, I guess that's really all I had to go over so far. So should we go to Q&A?
Q&A?
All right. I can't see any of them.
Yeah, answer my question. Whoa, yeah. Bright coming from the other direction. Questions? I have a question. Can you, so this is like, we're answering, I get to ask all the questions on apparently before and after. So you can respond with data, so the lights, for example, I would find out all the information on those lights, and then I could respond, and it would, how do I simulate those lights? Like, can I write a simulation for those lights? So I basically create a fake API for them?
Right, yeah, so actually we just had a talk in the other room about HTTP versus lower level protocols for IoT, right? A lot of problems with HTTP, like these lights might have an API, or the Philips lights. You know, they talk locally over something called Zigbee. There's a gateway in your house that has a REST-based API, but from the cloud that's harder to reach. There might be other services, you know, like an if this then that kind of consumer-based services you can click through. But as a developer, if I really want to do that, I have to worry about how do I get a command to go back into a user's home. So what we do for Heroku apps, right, is you can send over a WebSocket, and we'll mirror basically whatever the supported protocol is on the other end. So we'll translate that to a lower level. We're on like Qualcomm's Wi-Fi module, can bridge our traffic. So if you have one of those in the house, it can jump off of that, take the direct socket connection to the light. We work with Wind River and Intel at the same thing. So you want to get that second hop from the cloud to the devices that can talk HTTP. But we try to really fit in that middle layer. So as a developer, you'd be able to send an HTTP-based request, and it would get translated to something different on the wire. So
I feel like I don't need to tote my lights around anymore.
Right.
I kind of enjoy toting them around.
I saw you with them on earlier. So.
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to call it a wrap. Nothing but crickets. Thanks, folks.